Hello guys! Today I'm announcing my new solo project, RoboClysm, combining roguelite dungeon shooter with RPG mechanics and crafting. I plan to chronicle the development journey here. Let me first introduce myself. I am Marcin, a software tester and a developer of this game. I have always been interested in making games, but I bounced from engine to engine. The scope of my games was too large, and I never finished them. That was until I found Godot. It was like the Holy Grail. Over the next 2 years, I created several small games, participated in 2 game jams, but all the time I felt it wasn't enough. Therefore, I started my big project, and this devlog will be about that. At the half of October, I returned to Godot, after a break of several months due to another side project. I started playing with the mechanics, and wanted to replicate the conveyor belt system from Factorium. Not everything was going my way. I quickly started adding more mechanics, building, robot management, and logistic in the transport of materials by AI robot. After a few days, I came to the conclusion that the idea, which seemed phenomenal to me, would very quickly lock me in a cage. It will limit the possibility of development of this project. It would be a rather small game, but I wanted to do something big. A new idea was born, a better idea. That's why I blew almost 80% of the content to the trash. Now, I know that it was easier to start a new project than to fight with the dependencies of the missing files. And so, RoboClysm was born in early November. RoboClysm mixes roguelite dungeon crawling with RPG progression in a post-apocalyptic robot world. I like games where you see your character evolve, something I missed in roguelikes. My game draws inspiration from Moonlighter, Terraria, and Enter the Gungeon. How am I blending these mechanics? Well, I divided the game into 2 phases. First is the home base phase, a bunker, where our robo-antagonist crafts, chats with NPCs, and gears up for the dungeon run. The second phase is a dungeon phase, where the player can use the just acquired and upgraded weapons to defeat more enemies and loot items necessary for crafting. In the dungeon, the player can also find other robots, which for rescuing will join our bunker. This will allow us to take advantages of their capabilities. For example, one of the first NPCs is the smelter robot. With him, you can melt looted ores into more useful ingots. For the moment, my main focus is on core gameplay loops. I made crafting system, inventory, quest, and dialogue system for home phase. However, I was still wondering what to do to make the player actually go to the dungeon, so that the time spent in the bunker would not be infinite. I didn't want to limit the time, so the energy bar from the Stardew Valley or Littlewood was the perfect solution in this case. The player can only perform as many actions as he has energy produced by the generator. After returning from the dungeon, the energy bar automatically refills to the maximum value. The second major element on which most mechanics are based is the inventory system. In making it, I had to have it in the back of my mind to make it uncomplicated and easily scalable. To start, I prepared a custom class data, item data, which I assigned to a second custom class, item amount data. This allows me to save how many items of a given type the hero has. I prepared an entire inventory component script responsible for managing items. This is one of many components that I can add to other nodes, such as shopkeeper, and with a few lines the whole thing should work properly. For dungeon phase, the ability to move between rooms, span enemies, basic combat, obtain items from boxes, or leave the dungeon to return to the bunker. At the moment, it also allows you to rescue 2 NPCs and accept initial quests from them. I wanted each entrance to the dungeon to be unique. As a first idea, I created a similar scene as in Moonlighter, where the rooms are rectangles that can be entered from 4 sides. This worked quite well, but I felt that the protagonist was limited by this space and didn't really have the ability to dodge bullets. I was also limited by the camera, which was static in the dungeon. That's why I changed it for the enter the dungeon solution. At the moment, I have created several rooms, which I am connecting to each other. I also added doors that allow you to move between rooms, but close when you enter a new room. You have defeated all the enemies to open it. I assign a direction to each door, but when you enter a room from, for example, the left side, it works fine. However, when we enter from the right, they are still the left door. That's why I added 2 areas before and after the door. Passing through the first one defines the direction of the door, and only passing through the second one closes it. Crafting couldn't work without items, so I added a destructible box from which loot can fall out by a random loot generator. When the player approaches an item, it moves toward him, and the touched one disappears, and is added to hero's inventory. Well, I fix it later. I also wanted to have a lot of freedom when it came to enemies. Therefore, I relied on the Behave plugin and based the AI logic on a behavioral tree. At the moment, it is basic. For graphics, I use Sprite, which speeds up my work. As my experience with pixel art is known, I bet on the proven 16 by 16 pixels, plus I use Resurrect 64 palette. In the near future, I want to finish working on the UI I started, improve the combat system to make it more exciting, add new NPCs and enemies, and tidy up the dungeons. For anyone intrigued enough to follow along this indie games project's early steps, feel free to let me know your thoughts and questions in the comments. Getting constructive feedback now, in these beginning stages, will be hugely valuable for me. Thanks for watching video. Please look out for more updates on my progress in the coming months. I'm excited to take you along for the ride on this solo development journey.